Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I am so excited to be recording this fourth and final video in this series all about our four divine feminine wild woman archetypes. And this is, in a lot of ways, the most exciting because this is about the fourth archetype, the one that is so often erased from so many stories and plot lines and cultural moments. And honestly, the list goes on because no archetype has ever been demonized in the way the Wild Enchantress is often demonized and misunderstood. And honestly, it is tragic. It's so heartbreaking. But there are so many truly prismatically, stunningly diverse qualities that exist attached to the wild woman within all of us that the patriarchy wants you to erase. They want you to deny it. They want you to suppress it for their own comfort, but you are not here for the comfort of the patriarchy. You are here to embrace the wild woman within and allow her to flourish in and through you. Allow her to empower your creative work. Allow her to support you as you flourish. Allow her to validate every wrongdoing, every feeling, every moment. That is what we're going to do, okay? But first, we gotta do our homework, just like we've been doing. So if you haven't already, make sure you grab that free Wild Woman Archetype quiz, go all through it, and remember, although each one of us is going to be most dominant or most strong in one archetype throughout the course of our lives as women are seasonal lives. We don't exist on a back and forth spectrum like men do. We are cyclical beings, and that means we celebrate our seasons, and those seasons can move through us in a day, in an hour, in a month, in 5 years. There is no right or wrong to the pace, but it means that with each passing season, it brings out a different archetype's strengths and weaknesses within us, right? So as the moon begins to wane, our energy turns inward, and the wild woman or the wild enchantress, she shows right on up there to guide us and lead us because she's tied to that waning moon and the luteal phase. So we celebrate her and all of her magical and storytelling prowess in autumn and in fall. But if you are experiencing your wild woman season not in autumn, maybe in spring or in summer or winter, there is no right or wrong here. There are no absolute truths other than the message that is in your heart. So roll up those sleeves, grab that paper and pen or whatever you're doing to take notes, my love, because we have got to spill all the tea, as some might say, in regards to the wild woman and the inner wild woman within all of us. Whew, I'm so excited about this. There's been so much build up and there's going to be so many more videos like this, but this one is just so special. I can't believe we're here. Whew, so take a deep breath with me in and out. Here we are towards the end of the menstrual phase. It's when premenstrual syndrome is common. It's when we're gonna have the headaches, those mood swings. We might be a little irritable. We might be feeling some dread even, or ooh, those yucky shame and guilt emotions. They could be running real high. And I don't know about you, but at least when I was younger, I really didn't like to feel those guilt and shame feelings. So I used to suppress them, often through things like alcohol. Back in the time, I'm sober now because alcohol just makes me super depressed. I was never addicted to it, but it can make me so depressed even if I have one little drink the day before. So for me, I choose to remain sober because it keeps my creative and narrow pathways nice and clear. And it's way better for me as an epileptic to never drink. So I don't drink, but I used to use alcohol all the time to try to suppress a lot of these emotions and to help me try to process everything that I was undergoing in my wild woman seasons. And a lot of us do this, and it's part of this Jungian pattern that exists where it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy too, right? Like the patriarchy has maligned wild woman behavior so much and associated it basically with women having fun and being carefree and doing things outside of the box of what the patriarchy has decided is appropriate behavior. And, it scares the shit out of them. So they don't like that. So they malign these behaviors and attach them to things like the wild woman, the enchantress, the witch. And as you know, or maybe you don't know yet, witches were actually medicine women, they were doulas, they were midwives, and midwives were in just a huge financial and political threat to doctors, male doctors of the time. So, anytime women are threatening men in such a way, what do? Right? So here we are. But believe me when I tell you that witches are very, very much real. And if you are a witch, drop me some magic comments down below. Show up, present evidence for our fellow wild women that witches are very real. They are very beautiful. They are very powerful, and they are very, very needed in this world. We love you. We celebrate you. And we are so grateful to have you here with us. So, whew, that was a mouthful. Let's dive in here a little bit and start talking about our wild enchantress and the qualities that help to shape who she is, how she behaves, what she thinks, what she feels, what she believes, and all that good stuff, right? So, her deepest desire is going to be inner peace, which is kind of great if you think about it, because we know that the season to follow is the Sage Dreamer season, and that's marked with tremendous peace. So it's kind of cool for us if we think about it, knowing that what she wants most is waiting for her in the season ahead. I always like to think about that. I don't know. And especially when we think about storytelling, right? And foreshadowing, really, really good tool right there for you to use, knowing that a wild enchantress is going to have thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors that reflect her deepest desire, which is inner peace. And she's going to get it soon, but not just yet. Ooh, love it. I love it. This is why this stuff is so powerful for things like storytelling and so many other applications. So her goal is that she wants a meaningful life. And she also really, I should have probably also put this on here. She is really preoccupied with empowering other women and uplifting other women. She's so misunderstood, right? And while sometimes she has the tendency to give up on the idea of ever being fully accepted or loved for who she is, when she casts her eye out over her sisterhood of women, boy, she has a beautiful ability to really, really just lead incredible revolutions, incredible uprising. Another reason why the patriarchy has maligned her so and has chosen to create characters in her name that are quite obviously not behaving appropriately, right? So, shout out to everyone that creates villain stories. If you are living your villain era right now, that's all in the name of the Wild Enchantress, and I'm fucking celebrating the hell out of you for that right now. It's so powerful. So yes, her goal is to live a meaningful life, but because she wants to help other women so badly as well, she doesn't feel as though her life is going to be meaningful enough unless she does that most of the time. Now, our deepest fear is feeling disconnected and out of control. Think back to our rebel maiden archetype. Hello, fellow rebels. Very, very similar here. Also, some overlap with the queen, right? We know our queen, ooh, she loves that control. And we also know that the maiden can have some control stuff, but it's for very different reasons than the queen. And we also can look at dissociation. We can look at things like my former habit of turning to alcohol to numb some feelings and to disconnect, which honestly, then, if you think about it, like, it spurred a really quick downward spiral for me because it would cause me to feel more disconnected and more out of control, which to the queen, in a sense, could be soothing. But for the enchantress within me, like when I went through my wild woman seasons, they were often really dark times, partially because I was so disconnected and out of control in certain things. And I couldn't, my epilepsy was out of control. That was really, really difficult for me psychologically in that era, right? So, uh, it would spin ultimately for me. And because our thoughts, behaviors, and beliefs are so tightly connected, that when I felt disconnected in one area, that started to bleed into other areas of my life. Now, her signature move is going to be to withdraw, very similar to the sage in some ways. Um, Although the sage's signature move is more advice based, right? But she's this wild woman. She's going to go out into the world and she's going to have some really fun experiences, but she's more than likely going to have some pretty brutal moments because society is just flat out not going to approve of a lot of the things that she might think and feel and believe and say and do during her wild woman era. If you are in your wild woman era, you are more than welcome around here. Come on into the Wildly Creative Women Facebook group. It's free. We have fun in there. We talk about this stuff. We sync our cycles to the moon, but we also just like nerd out and talk about creative projects and share all kinds of creative things. I do some creativity coaching in there, so we'd love to have you in there. And I'll talk to you in a moment about another program that might interest you if you want to go a little bit deeper into all of this and how it would impact your creative service-based or freelance business. So, that said, her hidden talent is slow living. I cannot say enough for slow living. While the queen within many of us wants the mansions and the fancy cars and the spa subscription and all that kind of good stuff, and there is nothing wrong with any of that, our wild enchantress, like, even her idea of Lux is probably, giant crystals and different things like that. But she is just like our rebel maiden. She's so much more concerned and interested in reconnecting to nature and playing with her herbs and her medicines and all of her natural tinctures and her rituals and connecting to the moon and connecting to herself and just really returning back into her body to fully experience the power and the wonder that surrounds her in nature. It's an incredible talent. I have so much admiration for the wild woman for being able to do this. Now, as we've done in all the previous videos, I thought it would be fun to talk about a few different areas our Enchantress archetype has shown up in pop culture to help you further understand who she is, how she shows up, and how she's been maligned, right? So, speaking of being maligned, Ursula from The Little Mermaid. Now, in film and literature, when two women are pitted against one another, most of the time, what you are seeing is the enchantress bullying the poor, helpless maiden. Now, this is a toxic message, not just for the wild woman who's being cast a villain, a wicked witch, or whatever it might be, and so that's awful, right? But it's also reinforcing this message of the maiden being a victim, the maiden being helpless, the maiden needing overprotection, the maiden needing to be saved, and all of those other super toxic messages. It drives a wedge between two sisters. These archetypes are on opposite poles, but that means they're so deeply connected to one another. So much of what they think and feel and experience is very, very closely like there's such a reflection of one another. Both of these women struggle with control. Both struggle with reputation and visibility in certain ways. Both have unapologetic moments in their life, but are super insecure in moments in their shadow. Both of them have the tendency to go through a lot of the same difficult experiences in life and in society and in relationships. These two women have so much to gain from sisterhood with one another, and they are unbelievably powerful. Just ridiculously powerful, probably unstoppably powerful when teamed up together. So I wonder why the patriarchy wants to keep them so far apart. And luckily, we are in this sisterhood where we grow closer together, even through the things that they try to use to drive us apart. Maleficent, another beautiful example from Sleeping Beauty. Now, luckily, Disney is trying to course correct some of this by coming out with films like Maleficent, where it is telling, the other side of the story, so to speak. So they are getting a little bit better with that. Still could be better, but okay. But to be honest, if I watch like the Maleficent movies, and maybe I need to do that again. That sounds nice. I'm so reminded of Stephanie, my late sister, and myself a lot of times in our own sisterhood, even though she was dominantly the matriarch huntress, she definitely had a lot of wild woman seasons. And I felt like there were moments in our lives where we kind of carried out portions of this whole storyline that's been perpetuated to us about the wild woman and the maiden way more times than was necessary. And yeah, to an extent, like if I'm being really honest and vulnerable with you, I wish I could get that time back. And sometimes that's where some of my fuel and fire comes from. Because I want to make sure that you are not robbed of that time in sisterhood with the counterpart, whether you're a maiden who would, God, just flourish in the friendship with the wild woman, or if you're a wild woman enchantress and you could use some hope and some light and some optimism and some gentle, innocent grounding. You guys just have so much to offer one another, just even by listening and understanding and holding space and being at home for one another. Another example is Blanche from the Golden Girls or Samantha from Sex and the City. Now, Both Blanche and Samantha, luckily, were super sex positive, obviously, and definitely did a lot to help promote this message about women embracing their sexuality and their power through their sexuality. So now let's talk about a little magic mastery, if you will. In other words, a few things that you can do in order to reconnect to your inner wild woman and really embrace her. So, first, you have to allow your feelings. You've got to value them, not judge them. Every feeling that you have is valid and is there to teach you. Remember, you're getting ready to go into your sage season, the one of wisdom, the one of deep introspection. It's coming, right? So for now, no matter how volatile, no matter how uplifting, no matter what they may be, allow your feelings without judgment and value them. They are sacred. And this is a beautiful time to explore your shadows and bring them to the light. Every part of you is worthy. Every part of you is worthy of love, unconditional love. I want you to support yourself and to reach out when you need to for extra help. I want you to indulge that desire to spend time alone and reflect. There will be more of it coming when you enter in your sage season soon. But perhaps take a few moments, or maybe even really take your time over time, to create a sacred space or an altar. It doesn't have to be big, even just a couple square feet, enough for you to get down on the ground and sit or kneel or do whatever is comfortable for yourself. And the point of this place of sacred worship is for you to feel safe. Okay? So that's all that really matters. There are no rules as to what it has to be. But when we're talking about rules, it makes me think of boundaries. And setting clear boundaries between yourself and other people is really important in this time. This is a sacred time for you, and no one is going to protect you better than you. No one deserves to protect you more than you, ever. Okay? So draw those boundaries, which also, can mean to unplug. It can mean less screen time or stillness. At this point in your content journey, hopefully you have gotten a lot of things pre-scheduled or off your own plate, with whether it's through outsourcing or another strategy I've shared with you. And I'm hoping at this point in your seasonal practice, you can open your heart and your mind to total acceptance and forgiveness of yourself and of others. It will bring you tremendous relief. And then finally, as always, I want to see you nourishing your body, not just your mind and your spirit. Have the spa session or get the healing treatment or do at least one thing, if you can, to provide yourself with some self-care that brings you joy. But a little note on self-care. I think we've gotten pretty caught up in thinking that we have to feel a certain way about self-care or during self-care. And I think that's adding a whole lot more overwhelm to what has ultimately for so many become just this other thing I have to do on my to-do list. And if I don't get there, then I go into this pattern of guilting and shaming myself about it. Like it's this thing that I'm procrastinating on as though it's a work task. And then I start to spin on it and as Mel Robbins would do, right? I love it when she does that. Shout out if you listen to Mel Robbins. I haven't in a while, but I need to soon. I'm looking forward to that in my Sage season, and we can nerd out about her together anytime you want, but especially in the Sage season. So anyway, sorry about that little Mel Robbins tangent. But Yeah, I just wanted to kind of remind you that self-care, you don't have to feel like some euphoric goddess for every moment of it, and it doesn't all have to be fun or easy or anything like that. It's not about the feeling in the moment all the time unless you're practicing mindfulness and meditation for that. Um, and so that's different for those moments. But that aside, what it's about is just cultivating this practice of self nourishment, of self care, of connecting to the inner matriarch and using her to nourish self and to show up for self and to show ourselves that we can commit to, if nothing else, loving and embracing ourself. Right. So that's really what it's about. And if you are an entrepreneur, a service provider, a freelancer, call it whatever you want to, self care can go a long way for you in business as well. Right. If you think about professional athletes and the amount of effort they pour into nourishing and supporting their body, you're not really that different. The only difference is instead of using your legs all day or and maybe you are, depending on what you do, but, or doing something super physical, most of the time you are using your brain muscle all day long, right? It's exhausted. It is a muscle. It needs rest. It needs care. So that's what we're doing here. Okay. So, that being said, I just wanted to remind you, if you haven't already, you can download the free quiz to discover which archetype you are if you're just learning about them for the first time. And once you find out, you will get a little bit of a report reminding you about the strengths and weaknesses and what you might want to watch out for in life, relationships, and business based on your shadows and your shadow side. Okay, it's really really eye opening, and it has now saved me. Oh my god, I don't even think I can count how many hours or months or years it's probably given me back into my life. And so that said, if you are interested in learning more about how to scale with the Wild Woman Enchantress and how to really unleash the full power of all of the archetypes and all of the seasons while also scaling your freelance business or your service based business, I would love to invite you to join me in the Secret Society of Femme Fatale Freelancers. It is a 12-month coaching membership program that is truly one of a kind. It is an immersive experience designed to support you holistically, mind, body, and spirit, as you scale your business the divine feminine way. That means not playing by the rules of the patriarchy. That means letting go of perfectionism. That means healing the imposter syndrome. That means ditching the shiny objects. That means message mastery, having a new brand, having a stunning new website, understanding the various different popular business models that exist out there today, like group coaching, VIP days, retreats, memberships, you name it. It means finally having a brand and an offer suite that you're not only proud to show off, that you not only know stands out and connects on a really, really freaking deep human level. That's all standard at this point, right? But beyond that, it means that you are no longer dependent on your one to one clients or your retainer clients. It means you have predictable recurring income that allows you to cherry pick the clients, but to also pursue those multi-passionate desires that I know are raging within your wildly creative heart. And I think that's the most exciting part for so many of us, not to mention the sisterhood of support and all of the barter opportunities. And oh my gosh, we could go on for forever. But if you're not interested, I don't want to sit here and bore you with it. I just want to thank you so much for watching. This has been so much fun. Real quick again, please don't hesitate to to master your magic. Look at, I did it again. Oh goodness. I think it's probably time for me to go pour another cup of coffee, or maybe I just need a whole bunch more water to hydrate that big old noodle of mine. Thank you so much for watching. I can't wait to see you in all of the videos that follow, that are designed to help fully support you in your divine feminine journey. I love you for watching, and I'll see you soon.